Yeah, excellent.
So this is the Fairfield Economic Development Commission meeting of Thursday, September 5th, 2024. Meeting in the second floor conference room in the Old Town Hall, as well as via Zoom. We do have a quorum. I see Commissioners Beck, Rappaport, Rosado, as well as the chairman, Kevin Lesko, in attendance, as well as myself, Mark Barnhart, Director of Economic Development, and Beverly Ballas from the Chamber of Commerce, and our faithful recording secretary, Gretchen Gertner. So
Yay.
appreciate all for joining. And we also have Commissioner Emeritus Don Peterson as well joining us via Zoom. So
Excellent.
with that, I'll turn things over to you.
All right.
Mr. Chair.
All right, excellent. Thank you very much, Mark. And welcome back, everyone. Happy September, and we're off to fall, right? So, let's just press forward and let's maybe we've had the opportunity to look at the prior minutes. If we wanted to have a motion to approve those prior minutes, we can do that.
I have a motion to approve them.
Excellent. Anything second?
Second.
Excellent, very good. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Favor.
Very good. All right, so that housekeeping's out of the way.
Super.
All right, so we're gonna bring it right back to you, Mark, if you wanted to give us a report with what has been taking place over the summer.
So for those joining us in the room, I did leave a few pieces of collateral here for you. Those joining us online, I'll just reference our latest edition of our rack card for the fall, which profiles upcoming events. We are working with the Parks and Rec Department and Fairfield Theater Company to reprise Fairfield Oktoberfest on September 14th, coming up, not this weekend, but the following. Down at the FTC lot, we do have some great music. We have Dennis Lasky and Maestro's Men playing polka favorites, as well as
I won't be here.
local celebrity Fuzz and Friends to follow as the main act. Food trucks, obviously libations, adult beverages for those of age. We'll have some cornhole, axe throwing, other games and contests. So should be, hopefully we'll have great weather. We had not so great weather last year, but managed to draw about 1,000 people to the event. So hopefully we will have much better weather this year and draw larger crowds. Just a fun activity for the community. It's free and open to the public from 2 to 6 p.m. So everyone's welcome. We also are working on Fairfield Restaurant Week, which is October 21st, November 3rd. We just sent out the invitation to local restaurants to join us. This is our 13th annual event. Working on that, and then other events are profiled on the rack card. I know Beverly will probably touch on the Harvest Market later this fall.
Excuse me.
Report, but lots to do as always in Fairfield. Did want to mention the Arts Commission is working to establish a cultural district downtown. You may have read an article in the local newspaper. I brought the big map. Those online can find a copy of this map on the town's website under the Arts Commission page. There's a tab for cultural district and includes information on the proposed district. It was approved unanimously by the Board of Selectmen and now heads to the RTM for their consideration at their September meeting. There's a state law that was established a few years ago that allows communities to seek official recognition or designate a cultural district or more in their communities. And to date, I think 7 cities and towns have done so. This has been something that the Arts Commission has been working on since they were established. It's really an opportunity to market the community as being supportive of the arts and culture, to promote arts and cultural venues and creative businesses and the like, artists and entrepreneurs here. So I don't really see much of a downside to it. Maybe at some point in the future, it might attract some additional investment in the arts or grant making opportunities, but that remains to be seen. But we're moving ahead with that. And then the last thing I'll just note is we did receive word from the Department of Revenue Services that our 3 applications that were submitted by Fairfield Theater Company and Wakeman's Boys and Girls Club were approved under the Neighborhood Assistance Act program. This is a state program that provides a tax credit to corporations that have a state corporate tax liability for those corporations that make charitable contributions to these approved community programs. So it's a real win-win situation. It attracts additional dollars to support community projects and activities run by either municipality or local nonprofits, and then allows the companies that make those gifts to get a write-off on their taxes. So
Excuse me, Mark, Wakeman's, and what was the other group?
Wakeman Boys and Girls Club and Fairfield Theater Company.
Okay, thank you.
So 2 organizations, 3 applications. I think FTC applied for 2, and both were approved. So businesses that are interested have until October to, I believe, submit those applications. The application portal opens up mid-September. So I just wanted to make note of that. And I think that is it for my overall report. I will probably talk a little bit more about some of our development sites and pending applications, but maybe I'll pause and go out of order and ask Beverly if she had something she wants to provide her report.
Yeah, that's fine. Happy to. So for community events, we have our annual harvest market coming up on October 19th, which is held right down here on the Old Town Hall Green. It's a big community event. We have a Halloween costume dog parade. And there's 7 winners within there that are selected. And giant pumpkins. It's just a wonderful event. A lot of vendors. We have about 70 vendors coming in, food trucks, and then we cascade down to the Fairfield Museum Commons area where Rotary will have its beer garden. And Illicit has kindly come in to support that event. So I think beer drinking will be allowed from noon to 4. But to have the Illicit brand there connected to Rotary and then to the Chamber, I think is a big plus for all of us on that. So that'll be, we think, even a bigger draw for on the other end of Rotary as well. So we're excited about that. There is a rain date for the following Saturday, because last year it just poured, literally just sheets, and I just told everyone to go home at that point. So because it was a rain or shine, and there were people there for the dog walk and the Halloween costume, but after that it kind of fizzled out. So there is a rain date for that. Santa, of course, always comes to Fairfield first to visit children. And so that's December 1st on Sherman Green. So we'll be holding that event as well. And let me see, I think that's it for now as it relates to the town. I think that's good. Thank you.
Any questions?
Fairfield Center Stage is putting on Hair.
Hey, yeah.
Remember for the production Hair?
Yes.
It's Saturday and Sunday at Fairfield, at Park City Music Hall.
Oh, that's right. I saw that on Broadway.
And it's the full show.
Right.
Oh, my gosh.
Right.
Full show, yeah.
No pun intended.
I understand tickets are relatively inexpensive too, $20 or $25 or something like that.
It's a nice venue, for sure.
It is.
This Saturday is Rotary's Paddle Fest as well.
That's
Yeah,
right.
that's right.
So the lawn signs.
Yes,
put around.
exactly.
Will you be paddling?
No, I'm usually actually on one of the standby boats.
Ah,
So.
That makes sense.
For oversight, right.
Yes, so that's, I'm much more geared towards that, although I did start taking paddling.
You did?
Yeah, so it's a lot of fun. It's a little hard when
It is.
somebody
Are you doing
doing
this-
black lab on the paddle.
So-
Are you doing stand-up paddle boards?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're fun.
impressive that the dog's there.
So, yeah, you know, I can't get them off. It's like-
Oh, you guys are
Like I put him in the
connected.
water, he jumps out. Okay, here we go, you know? So, all right, well, that's great.
That's right, I forgot to mention that too, that's great.
No, that's good. All right, Mark, you want to go into any applications or?
Yeah, I
right now, or-
included in the packet, and I'll send this out to those joining online. I did provide, we were asked to update this fairly regularly by our utility companies to provide forecasted development activity for the upcoming year. So I just recently did that. It does include some projects just in the tail end of the process in terms of those that have been completed that were shown in previous examples, as well as things that are under construction or those that we expect to be under construction in 2025. So I'll note that. Some of the projects that we considered recently, the Economic Development Commission had received presentations and then provided letters in support. I'm sure you've been following the travails of Nest, the daycare applicant at 161 Hillside Road. They will now be into their third public hearing. They had hearing dates on the 13th and 27th. Weren't able to complete the rebuttal testimony on the 27th, so I think that is now scheduled for next meeting, which will be early September, I think the 10th. Hopefully that'll be the end of that process, and then it'll go before the commission for a final decision. But because of the delay there, the application by Penske Motors for a new Porsche dealership service facility at 2190 Post Road, the former Exide battery site, that was scheduled to be heard on the 27th, but got bumped until September. And you recall that they were pushing hard
Yes.
to get foundations in the ground before the end of the year. So, you know, time is of the essence. Hopefully they'll have an opportunity to be heard on the next meeting in September. More positively, Gengris Motors, if you've driven past the site on Commerce Drive, they're beginning demo work. That was approved on the 23rd of July after a public hearing. So they'll be starting their construction work hopefully later this year. And the same holds true, I think, with 338 Commerce. I'm sorry, I got the two confused. 251 is Gengris. That's the dealership that was the Chrysler Jeep Dodge dealership. They're renovating that building. So that was approved. They haven't yet started work, but I anticipate they will do so shortly. 338 Commerce is Belize.
Yes.
Genesis dealership that was approved earlier in July. They've commenced demo.
Yeah, I saw that. I actually noticed that the other day.
They'll be moving ahead, so at least we'll end on a positive note.
Now, what about Unclewood? Did I read in the patch that
Yes, 15 Umpqua.
overruled what the town?
Yeah, the court, it was an interesting decision because it remanded portions back to the commission as well as the applicant to do some additional test pits to determine the sufficiency of the drainage on site to handle.
Sewer again, right?
Well, it's not so much
No?
the sanitary sewer, that was a separate action. They had appealed the Water Pollution Control Authority's denial of a sewer permit for the site. That was overturned. The Planning and Zoning Commission's denial of the application was similarly overturned, but again, there was a lot of detail in the decision that indicated there's a very, in some respects, peculiarly worded provision because they were at the same time acknowledging that there might be some drainage issues on site and that the applicant would need to conduct some additional testing to determine the sufficiency of their drainage system to handle the flow from the site. But you know, it certainly wasn't positive news in the sense that, and that's par for the course, I think, with applications made under 830G. So it really is a very narrow decision that you would have to, make a case based on the evidence in the record that there are substantial public health safety issues at risk that outweigh the need for affordable housing. And the Superior Court determined that the town had not met its burden. So I believe from what
Just wanna ask a quick question on that. We're close to a moratorium, I think, for the 830G, correct?
yes,
Does it, I guess if they're approved yesterday and the decision on the moratorium hits tomorrow, they're still approved.
correct.
The moratorium can't supersede that. And this is, I guess,
Applications filed before the moratorium is approved by the state will have to go through the process. So
this
it's
is, I guess,
really,
more of a comment though. Like, I understand downtown is just, there's challenges with flooding, the mitigation that they're trying to do down there, trying to put that drainage underneath the green and stuff. If they make this decision and it just causes significant flooding, it's just on the town or the local property owners to deal with it, and that the court decision has no bearing. Like, it's just done. It just seems like,
I believe,
Yeah.
I was gonna say is, my understanding, I wasn't privy to the executive session that the Planning and Zoning Commission had with their legal counsel earlier this week, but my understanding is they did decide to take an appeal on it. Now, the appellate court has to accept the appeal. There have to be substantial issues that have not yet been fully adjudicated for them to decide to take the case. But the town's certainly gonna make an effort to appeal the decision. I do think there's an opportunity, again, there have been conversations between the parties to come up with a plan that might be acceptable to both sides. And so I do think, if the town were to pursue an appeal, there is this opportunity to maybe engage in further discussions with them. But clearly, the applicant has the upper hand in the sense that they have a ruling at this point. So some of the concerns that this commission had expressed with regard to the project is, as presently constituted, it was a 100% residential project. So we wouldn't have any ground floor commercial space in a fairly prominent location in the center of a downtown, which is not the best look. And then other than the immense scale and size of the building, there were some, and design considerations. I mean, it could have been perhaps designed a little bit differently to make it more, to blend in better with surrounding properties, to perhaps reduce the massing on the site, to break that up in some way. So that can be done. And it's, as mentioned, the drainage. So, the parking is one floor parking full over it. And, part of the evidence that was presented at the time was we have very good evidence of the flooding that occurs on Sanford Street in that area of the town. And it's increasing with frequency and intensity. With climate change, the stormwater system is inadequate to handle it. The outfall is on Long Island Sound. So, at some point, if the outfall is covered by tidal forces, there's nowhere for the water to go. So we did put in additional detention capacity in Sherman Green, which is just a large holding tank under the green to help parse it out. But that is going to quickly be overwhelmed. It's a small Band-Aid. So my concern is, based on my own experience with several feet of water on that street in people's basements, if you have a subterranean parking garage, it could turn into an aquarium at some point.
Right,
So
yeah.
I think that's the concern that the commission is most animated about, the drainage and the adequacy of the site to handle the drainage, and then some sightline issues with parking and traffic flow in and out of the garage. But, you know, it remains to be seen. Right now, they have kind of a conditional approval subject to, you know, providing these test bits and showing, you know, but, you know, engineering, it's all a question of money, right? So.
It is about money, and it's expensive to build a reverse pool. And that's really what you're talking about,
Yeah.
and maintain it. And it's an ongoing maintenance. You can ask Bridgewalk, because they have that.
Riverwalk has it, Gateway has it,
And they,
Totora has it in his building.
and they have, you know, for purposes of parking in that new section of the promenade, all underneath the promenade is all parking. There's like 70 parking spaces under there, and there, you know, whenever there's a huge storm and the tide is an extra high tide, they have some problems, and you know, it's an ongoing event for them. You know, thankfully for their part, the way that it's set up, I don't think there's ever been a car been flooded, but cars, I think, get boxed in to that space until the water recedes. But there's a lot of water pumping. You'd have to have, you know, they have, in the Brookwalk, they have a huge galley system that they can spread it out underneath, like almost the majority of that parking lot are galleys.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very expensive build. They really did a wonderful job. They spent you know, a lot of money on it, but that's not what's there. That's the problem. They don't have the room for galleys. The question is, I guess.
Nor do they, and that site is far worse in terms of surface drainage issues.
Right, and I fully agree with that. I question of where, like, when there's the drainage on the Umpqua side and the drainage on the Sanford side. And do they meet at the post road, and do they merge down to behind Sherman or not? Or does the Umpqua side do a kind of a home run right down through Old Post Road, that section of Old Post Road going towards Oldfield? Does it have a home run as it's heading?
I don't think so. I think it goes down Reef, down that direction.
Because if it did, then
There's another.
they could actually flip the drainage to the Umpqua side, and that might actually be more of a relief to the Stanford side. But if that's not the case, then it's gonna become a moot point. It's all going to the same
I think
spot.
it's all going to the same. There is another system, I believe, a pipe that goes underneath the tracks to the north side, you know, underneath the Metro North line.
And then goes where?
I think it makes a left. I'm not sure where exactly it exits, but the issue has been that the line underneath the tracks is probably inadequate in terms of size and capacity.
Right.
And as you can imagine, it's pretty expensive to jack a pipe underneath, a larger relief pipe underneath the Metro North line.
Don't mention why.
Let's try getting that approved.
There are limitations, site limitations and limitations in terms of the infrastructure.
But I guess their argument is gonna be that, you know, it's, you know, vertical almost doesn't matter when it comes to, when the rain drops, you have a footprint of where the property is, and whether it's vertical or it's one level, it's the same amount of water dropping on that one spot. And I guess the question would be, for their purposes, the difference between the coverage of the lot. I mean, and if there's any.
I'm not sure it's because of the additional impervious surface and
Right.
drainage that's generated, or the fact that it's below grade parking in an area that really can't support below grade parking.
Well, and ultimately,
But that could be simply, you know, that might be the straw that breaks the camel's back in terms of constructability of this.
that's
too.
really what it is, because, I mean, if you have a structure that doesn't have safe parking, then all the parking is gonna be pushed down to the road. Anytime that there's a rainstorm, all those tenants are gonna.
I would hope, otherwise they might not have a car.
That's right. Push their boats out, right? Push their cars out. So.
But safety is part of what the town had said with regard to their.
I think that was the
different-
argument, that it was not safe because of that situation,
Right.
so.
And they really wouldn't know until they built it and it happened. And you
that
realize the
point.
problem.
And this is
Yeah.
it's a judgment call on which reasonable people can disagree. You have the evidence, and
Right.
weighing the evidence and deciding whether or not it outweighs the need for affordable housing. In this case, he said, no, it doesn't. But
Yeah.
But opportunity to appeal, maybe.
there is an opportunity to appeal. I believe the town will avail itself of that opportunity. Not necessarily because of the way the law is structured and the decision and the appeal process, that necessarily, I'm not optimistic about the chances of prevailing on the merits, but
Right.
it could provide an opportunity for the town to come to some happy medium or unhappy medium with the applicant. So
Does that include the Las Vegas property?
it does. So there are also tenant relocation issues, which I think is
Oh,
another
of
issue that
course,
we
right.
brought up.
Yeah.
With, they've been carefully monitoring this. I got several emails from some of the businesses affected. And, regardless of this decision, it's still gonna be some time before anything gets built there.
Mhm.
So even if everything was as is,
Yeah.
typically it's at least 6 months to prepare construction documents, arrange financing before you're ready to pull a building permit.
Yeah.
And we're not even at that point.
Yeah.
So I think we're talking more like a year plus
Right.
potentially.
Right.
But, I think all these businesses do have to be mindful and consider other options at this point.
That include the Catch a Healthy Habit.
Catch a healthy habit. Yeah, exactly.
All right.
And I got a note from one of the reporters asking about some new business coming in. It's been a continual parade of small pop-ups on the corner there on Donnelly Walk on Umpqua. And it's been good to provide a pop-up space for small businesses that might want to test drive a concept. That's really what it is. I'm sure it's somebody that's on a very short-term lease because he really can't afford to have a long-term lease commitment for that space if he has other plans for the site. So I don't think he's doing any kind of long-term lease at this point.
Right.
Whichever one's month to month or maybe at most a year. So
Right. Right.
Hmm.
Okay. Any other?
Not easy.
Any other?
I just did want to mention that as you know, I'm a member and on the board of the Connecticut Economic Development Association, CEDAS. They have their annual meeting and Best Practices Award on the 23rd of October from 2 to 5 at the Wyndham Golf Club in beautiful Wyndham, Connecticut. And if any of you are interested in attending, I will be there, of course. But if any of you are interested in attending, just let me know. I'm happy to figure out ways to.
They're not acknowledging Hartford Health for anything. I see their logo on the CEDAS announcement. Or
Well,
is it
Hartford
sponsor?
Health is a sponsor, as is Berkshire Bank.
Okay.
Two major, well, I think Berkshire Bank is sponsoring the annual meeting event, and Hartford Healthcare is sponsoring the Best Practices Award ceremony.
Oh, okay, because there was something about,
Yeah.
there was like a tagline under there for a good use of
I
land.
had to figure out Jim Milano's, who's the Economic Development Director in Wyndham. I had to figure out his recipe because he scored big in terms of sponsorships for this event.
Yeah, that's great.
It's been awesome. So, I haven't had the same luck with Oktoberfest this year. So I need a little help, I think, remedial help from some of my colleagues.
Well, just as an FYI, so they joined the chamber, those
Hartford Health,
weddings
yeah.
did, yeah. And I'm meeting with this marketing person probably middle to end of next month, so if you.
Yeah, sometimes I wasn't sure about the connection in Hartford Health and Oktoberfest. I suppose I could connect it somehow
Yeah.
in terms of healthy lifestyle, but
Right. Moderation.
Right. Well, everyone needs a little bit of relaxation, right? But yeah, they're
The half yard, not the full yard.
they're working with Sloan Memorial Kettering
Yeah.
to open the cancer center that's on the development activity list for 185. We expect that to open probably middle of next year. So they're doing some now interior renovations. The exteriors and the site have largely been built out. There is an issue with regard to that the commission may be interested in. I was talking to the president, Hartford Healthcare, and they have some issues with regard to signage, not mistakenly, we're signing regulations here. So what they are proposing, and what I suggested was, I think they pursued a variance request, which really wasn't the right way to go. It said, well, why don't we look at a text amendment, a zone, regulation change that would allow a signature, signage on a building, similar to what Bigelow Tea currently has. So if it's a single occupant building, prominent location, you can have a sign, your logo at the top, a branded sign. So I think they're gonna propose something like that. I've worked with Chris Russo, and the commission may wanna consider providing a letter in support of that, because I think it's a good idea. I'm surprised we don't really have that right now. I don't know how Bigelow got theirs, but I'm happy for that. It looks good, but I think.
Days of old, yeah, right, don't ask, right?
I didn't research it, but it's good. I don't let sleeping dogs lie, but I think.
Always.
I just want to point out that the earth did not stop because they have a sign at the top of their building. So I think that might be something we want to
I
consider.
just thought the painter dropped a bucket of paint there and it just happened to go that way.
Yeah.
They just never cleaned it up,
All right, accidental.
And we have the official ribbon cutting for Illicit today,
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
4:30.
Yeah. Official one, right?
Yeah, that's the official one, right,
Yeah.
and so will be,
Like an annual one or?
oh, I don't know, yeah, they can do that.
Well, we've been offering that from,
How are they celebrating? What's
time
happening?
around the schedule.
I don't know, Mark has been involved, so
So you'll do it.
celebrating with the ribbon cutting, I think only today, Mark.
Just a
Yeah.
It's not
special that's going
Yes.
on.
I'm sure.
Beer tasting or anything?
No, I don't think so.
All right, no reason to stop by.
Well, you're certainly welcome.
Congratulate.
4:30, so. Well, then for Steve, who's gonna be on our Zoom call. So
We'll be thinking about you. We'll raise a glass for you. Anything else?
The only other,
Yes.
one other thing I want to mention is that according to the town attorney who carefully researched the ordinance establishing the Economic Development Commission, we do need to provide an annual report each year to the RTM. And it's like, well, that's great. I have another annual report. Yeah, right. So we should be mindful of that as we, go into the final quarter of the year in terms of, things that we want to, I know Ken's not on here on call today, but we talked about things the commission might want to be looking at, particularly underutilized town properties. And, there are a couple sites. We saw one on your boat tour.
Yeah.
And I think that might be something, not this year, but maybe in 2025, we could circle and just look at 3 particular sites. And it's not necessarily we have to come up with a definitive plan, but just to plant the seed and say,
Highlight it.
these are opportunities,
Yeah.
what if, right?
Right, we can take advantage, if, they're probably looking at it from another avenue. They just want to hear about what we do necessarily, but we can turn it around and tell them what we want them to do,
That's
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So the 3 sites that immediately come to mind, one of which Ken had talked about is Mill Plain Road.
Yeah.
The second was the other half of the Giant Steps property.
That's on.
So that's on Mill Hill.
Yeah.
But part of it's used for the alternative high school.
Right.
The other half has a building on it that's dilapidated, falling down. Frankly, looks like a liability to me.
Right.
But it's on a cul-de-sac, so it's residential. So I'm not sure what it is. It's just, it's out of sight, out of mind.
Mind, right,
And then
yeah.
the third is on our boat tour, that very prominent piece of real estate down on the point.
Yes.
At the entrance to the marina,
Correct.
that we could, circle and say, and what's it being used for? What could it be used for?
Correct.
What else?
Here's what the
Yeah.
market might support, just some information, and then plant the seed and see
Right.
where it goes. It's not like it's our call.
No.
But I think it would be our, part of our mission would be to raise these opportunities,
Right.
right? And say,
Right.
and suggest, this is what it's being used as now, but what could it be? in the future, and how could that?
Well, the unique properties and how do you?
There might be others.
And how do you develop these unique properties so they're assets to the town, right? So that's,
Mhm.
what are what kind of unique attractions that other towns wouldn't have,
Mhm.
and that's, that waterfront is.
Perfect, oh my gosh.
It's substantial,
Right.
it's crazy what we are now doing with it.
Exactly.
So.
So anyway, that's just a thought.
Yeah, well, you always do a good job with
Sounds
your
good.
year-end report, Mark, because we use it in our economic outlook.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be a heavy lift for us because we'll kind of use that.
Use it as a baseline, put some properties
Right.
on top of it and,
Right, we'll just take a little quarter of it.
right.
What we want them to do.
Yeah.
You got-
Right.
Mm.
By the way, while we were taking a vote, right? All right, so that's great. Any other business? Anyone else want to share anything?
I have one thing I was just curious about. I don't know if this is the right form for it, but you could tell me no if it isn't. Just seeing all the activity on the, near the train station and on Commerce Drive. It's going along. That traffic circle, like, since they cut those trees down on the exit coming down, which I know is the state, but that whole traffic circle is just a pile of weeds. I don't know if there's any opportunity to do any sort of beautification there or just keep it in better condition. You have those new apartments going up there. It's an increasingly busy area and sort of an entry point to the town. It just doesn't look all that great. Just a thought.
So Steve, what I'm gonna say is that I fully agree with you. I actually am disappointed with all of our I-95.
Mhm. And off, yeah.
Because you do, like, you go to like other towns and they are, it's very apparent that whoever is pulling the strings in that town with the state, their stuff looks great, ours does not.
Well, I'll certainly bring this up. I suspect what's happened in the past is the state says, we're doing what we'll do in terms of maintenance, and if the town wants to go above and beyond, then it's on you. So what may happen in those other communities, the town may play a bigger role in terms of maintaining those sites. I mean, maybe they have a direct feed to the commissioner and put a bug in his ear to get the maintenance crews out there, but I know in the past for some of these where we want to do things, it's our crews that are actually going out there and maintaining the state properties to provide a higher level of care. We have enough properties to maintain on our own, so maybe this isn't the issue, but I agree with you. I think it's for gateways in the community, they're not the most attractive.
No, they're shabby, all of them.
So I will certainly bring this up to the Public Works Director and see if he has any thoughts.
Well, is there anything we could do to support? Like, I mean, I don't know, like just even a letter or just raise it, maybe even an op-ed to the town or like the Citizen News. I don't know if that's something that is worth doing.
It could be, again, yeah, I think that can be an effective strategy, but a one-off type thing may not carry a whole lot of weight. So
Right.
I think you probably get a lot of people that agree with you, but if it just passes and we don't have a more concerted, similar, they have the same issue with some of these brownfield sites. We've talked about the Handy Environment site forever. We occasionally plink the DEP and say, well, hey, what are you doing? They respond, then it goes another 6 months and nothing happens, and then you do it again. So it really has to be almost a sustained pressure campaign to get.
Could there be an opportunity to approach some of the businesses that have traffic heavily using that exit to kind of come together or?
That's a good thought, Matty. Part of, some of these areas might be adopted. I'm not sure what the nature of that adoption and their obligations under that agreement are. That might be one of the things the state points out, which is, hey, the folks that are adopting these areas should do a better job of.
Well,
I don't know.
Rotary actually has adopted sections or
Right.
signs, and then they do have a private contractor come in and cut around those areas. So those areas are maintained. It's just they're not, they're maintained. They're not, and they're better. But there's nothing wow about that. I mean, they're not really
awesomely maintained because there's no water that's gonna
Right.
maintain any kind of real plantings. And then, but for the rest of it, the majority of it, as Steve pointed out, does not look great at all. I'm always thinking that it's more a matter of getting the town to put up a budget increase in DPW to be able to just take it on, just say, this is what we have to do, because this is who we are, this is what we want to project. you
Well,
know?
how about the developer? Maybe the state will hear more once the Metro is starting to get developed and stores are coming in, but maybe they could come forward and.
I'm not even thinking that's Steve, you have if you have time, you wanna take a couple of photos of the most egregious examples of these? Yeah. And shoot them my way and.
Yeah, pull over before you do.
Just driving
Will
by.
not be hard to do.
What did you say?
It's on punish.
Part of his work.
I just interject. When I go to Virginia, I am struck by how neat their roads are.
Right.
South is.
You don't see trash around, you don't see overgrown, and how do they do it out, away from the central areas? But they do,
I agree, I think.
and boy, do you notice it.
Good point, Steve.
Yeah.
Let's take, if you wouldn't mind taking a couple pictures, most egregious, after pulling over and being safe. I think we can, an op-ed wouldn't be we can do better. I mean, it really is.
Yeah.
Fairfield can and should do better.
Right.
And
But the state, you go through Darien and they put up the sound barriers, and they have done stuff that have privatized or downplayed the impact of the highway. And,
Yeah, 100%.
and as, Greenwich, the same thing. And, you can even go so far as even in like a Stanford or a Norwalk. I mean, even those heavy traffic areas, unless there's serious construction going on, which it's been pulled up, otherwise it is pulled together fairly decently, so.
Yeah. I was gonna say,
we may have some opportunities to have the commissioners here, and so I think this could be something that we could also focus on.
Yeah.
And hopefully see.
we'll happily get some pictures for that part or in the next week or so.
Okay.
It's my schedule today. It's been a rough few weeks.
No worries.
Well, let's try and get you off so you can have a few minutes before you start the rest of your day back on Zoom. So, is there any other items that need to be talked about?
Nope, I have one offside, quick for you after.
All right,
I'll say a motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor? Excellent. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being
Thanks,
here.
guys.
Have a great day and a great weekend, everyone.
Thank you.